Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. I make these for entertainment purposes, taking movies and such, and reimagine.
The archives of the sacred engine are vast, but the most chilling documents are not the blueprints of the tracks, but the diary entries of the man who built them. These pages, stained with grease and chocolate, reveal that the SNOWPIERCER was not merely a survival mechanism. It was the final grotesque evolution of a Candyman's fever dream. Here is the complete, unredacted history of the Great Transfiguration, expanding into the darkest corners of the factory that became a world. Part 1. The Curdling of the Dream and the Fate of the Five. The transition from Charlie Bucket to Wilfred was not immediate. It was a slow crystallization, like sugar hardening into rock candy. In the years following the transfer of power, Charlie tried to maintain the joy, but the global economy was collapsing. The original 5 golden ticket winners, however, had not vanished. They were the key to the New World Order. The Gloop estate, Augustus Gloop, traumatized by the tube incident, had become a baron of synthetic meat processing. Charlie reached out to the Gloop family first. Their slaughterhouse technology, vast pneumatic tubes designed to suction biomass, became the foundation for the train's waste recycling and water reclamation systems. The salt-heavy industries. Veruca Salt's father, a nut tycoon, had diversified into steel and munitions. The Salt line of rail cars was constructed using their factories. Veruca herself, bitter and aging, became the first major investor, demanding the first class be built to her childhood specifications of gold and velvet. She was the first passenger to board and the first to demand the tail be severed. The Beauregard Mandate. Violet's athletic discipline morphed into a militaristic obsession. The Beauregard family eventually took charge of the Bucketheads, the security forces. Their blue uniforms were a cruel homage to the blueberry swelling that once plagued their matriarch. The TV protocol. Mike TV, having been shrunk and stretched, became obsessed with the transmission of data. His descendants designed the engine's surveillance state. They ensured that Wilfred's eyes were everywhere, just as the television cameras had once been. Charlie realized that the bad nuts of his childhood were actually the ones best suited for the apocalypse. He needed their ruthlessness. He integrated their empires into Wilfred Industries, unifying the worst traits of humanity to save it.
Part 2. The Alchemy of CW7. The catastrophic freezing of the Earth was not an accident. It was a failed batch. The chemical agent CW7 has long been debated by historians of the train. In the purple logbook, the formula is written out in Wilfred's hand. The base compound was cooling WONKA-7, a derivative of the sub-zero isotope used in Wonka's chili chocolate cream. The original purpose of the cream was to stay frozen in the hot sun. Wilfred attempted to scale this thermal locking property to the atmosphere. He believed he could create a candy shell around the Earth to reflect UV radiation. He launched the rockets. He watched the sky turn white, but he had miscalculated the viscosity of the upper atmosphere. The shell didn't reflect heat. It vacuum-sealed the planet. The temperature plummeted. The fizzy lifting drink particles he added for buoyancy instead caused the clouds to freeze into solid ice sheets. The snow was not just water. It was a chemical precipitate, a toxic confection that covered the grave of the world.
Part 3. The Architecture of Madness. The train was not built. It was retrofitted. The SNOWPIERCER is physically composed of the dismantled sectors of the factory. The Tunnel of Terror. In the original factory tour, The boat ride was a psychedelic nightmare designed to test the resolve of the guests. This philosophy was applied to the entire train structure. The train is the boat ride, a linear, claustrophobic journey through madness where the passengers are trapped until they die. The psychedelic lighting in the night car is the direct legacy of that terrifying tunnel. The glass cage. The great glass elevator was the hardest piece to repurpose. Its glass was indestructible, forged from space-age sugars and silica. Wilford smelted the elevator down to create the front window of the engine. It is the only thing standing between the eternal fire of the engine and the eternal ice of the world. Wilford stares out of the very glass that once allowed him to see the stars, now only showing him the white void. The schoolroom. The bizarre chanting indoctrination of the train's children is not new. It is the Oompa Loompa method. In the factory, lessons were taught through song and repetition. What do you get when you guzzle down sweets? On the train, this evolved. The school teacher, a role originally vetted by the TV family, uses the same rhythmic sing-song propaganda to brainwash the next generation. The content changed from dental hygiene to the divinity of the engine, but the pedagogical method is pure Wonka.
Part 4. The Minister and the Shoe. Minister Mason represents the bureaucratic rot of the factory. Her obsession with the shoe placed on the head of the rebels is a perversion of the factory's hygiene protocols. In the old factory, contamination was the ultimate sin. A hair in the chocolate meant the batch was ruined. Mason elevated this to a social law. The head, the front, and the foot, the tail, could not mix, or the batch, humanity, would spoil. Her distinctive speech pattern, the grandiloquence, the strange accent, is an affectation adopted to mimic the foreign, almost magical cadence of Willy Wonka. She wears his teeth. The dentures she removes, they are replicas of the perfect white teeth Wonka flashed in his prime. She is a cargo cultist of the Candyman, worshipping the aesthetic while missing the heart.
Part 5. The Flavor of Despair. The Protein Block Extended. The decision to use cockroaches was practical, but the manufacturing process was pure confectionery genius. Wilford utilized the Wonka wash machines, originally designed to wash children down a drain to sterilize the insects. But the texture was the problem. The tail section would riot if they were fed raw bugs. Wilford used the gelatinous mutator, a machine once used to make gummy bears. By crushing the chitin of the roaches and subjecting it to high pressure, he created the blocks. But there is a secret ingredient listed in the logbook: cronole waste. The industrial sludge from the engine's filters, mixed with the drug residues of the front section, is fed back into the protein blocks. It keeps the tail docile. It is a sedative food supply. The poor aren't just eating bugs, they are eating the chemical runoff of the rich's pleasure, recycled into a black brick of submission.
Part 6. The Engine's Heartbeat and the Wall Children. The horror of the manual replacement runs deeper than labor. It is about the hum. Willy Wonka was a musical genius. He unlocked locks with musical notes. The factory ran on rhythm. The eternal engine, the beating heart of the SNOWPIERCER, was acoustically tuned. It didn't just generate power, it sang a frequency. When the Oompa Loompas died, the frequency drifted. The engine began to dissonate. Wilford discovered that only the heartbeat of a child, specifically a child in a state of high-stress focus, could resonate with the quartz gobstopper core. The children put under the floorboards aren't just replacing parts, they are resonators. They are kept in a trance state, listening to the engine. If they stop working, the engine doesn't just break mechanically, it falls out of sonic alignment. Wilford calls them the little helpers. He justifies it by remembering the Oompa Loompas. They loved to work, didn't they? Surely these children love to be part of the great machine. It is the ultimate lie he tells himself as he drinks his brandy.
Part 7. Gilliam, Slugworth, and the Red Foam. The relationship between Wilfred and Gilliam is the final key to the puzzle. In the lore of the factory, Arthur Slugworth was the rival, the man who wanted to steal the everlasting gobstopper. But in the end, it was revealed that Slugworth was actually an employee of Wonka, a test for the children. Gilliam is Slugworth. He was never a rebel. He was Wilfred's partner from the start. The revolutions in the tale were not uprisings, they were quality control tests, exactly like the fake Slugworth test in the factory. The red foam connecting the engine to the tail is the umbilical cord of this deception. They planned the riots. They decided how many would die to reduce the oxygen load. "We need to reduce the population by 74%, Wilfred would say. "I will stir the pot," Gilliam would reply. Gilliam played the role of the benevolent grandfather, Grandpa Joe, to Curtis, guiding him to the front, testing him to see if he was worthy of inheriting the factory, train. It was the golden ticket contest all over again, but played with axes and blood instead of chocolate bars.
Part 8. The Frozen Seven and the Loompa Land Myth. There is a legend on the train of the seven who revolted and jumped off the train, freezing to death on the ridge. These were not random passengers. In Wilford's diary, they are identified as the last Loompa keepers. They were a group of scientists and caretakers who refused to accept the extinction of the Oompa Loompas. They believed that somewhere in the tropical belt, a pocket of warmth, a new Loompa land still existed. They stole thermal suits, the precursors to the suits used by the breach team, and jumped. Wilford watched them freeze from the engine window. He saw the Inuit woman, Yona's mother, among them. He knew there was no new Loompa land. He had destroyed the climate too thoroughly. But their frozen bodies became a landmark, a warning. Just as the warning signs in the factory were ignored by the bad children, the Frozen Seven serve as a grim reminder. Stay on the path, stay in the boat. The rower keeps on rowing, and he's not showing any signs that he's slowing.
Part 9. The Cycle Broken. When the train finally crashes, resulting in the ending scene in Snowpiercer, it is the ultimate fulfillment of the prophecy. The explosion that derails the train is caused by chronal, a small, explosive, highly addictive rock. Chronal is essentially pop rocks weaponized. It is candy turned into a bomb. As the survivors step out into the white, they see a polar bear, Life. The factory is destroyed. The adults, Wilford, Mason, Gilliam, are dead, buried in the wreckage of their own industrial hubris. Only the children survive, the tail children and the engine children. They stand in the snow, the new Adam and Eve. And somewhere, under the twisted metal of the eternal engine, a final gear stops spinning, and the last everlasting gobblestopper flickers and dies, its sugar finally dissolved. The tour is over.
Well, that was a twist. Leave a comment with your thought. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. It's free and keeps you notified on all the stories to come.